Pleased to introduce Cory Evans to you. Cory is the chair of Small Business Subcommittee on the Upper East Side Community Board, and he has graciously agreed to tell us all about some tax incentives and benefits that are available to small business owners, particularly on the Upper East Side and in general, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So without further ado.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me. Thanks, everyone. This is great. I'm sitting next to someone who designs business cards, so I came prepared. I have all my business cards. I was going to hand them out. He gave me a business card. I'm like, oh, this is really great. I wonder what this store does. Turns out you design a business card. Design a business card envy, just so you know. Anyway, so let's see here. So my name is Cory Evans, and I'm the chair of the Small Business Committee on Community Board 8. So Community Board 8 is the Upper East Side of Manhattan. All throughout New York City, we have community boards. So if you're in Westchester or New Jersey, I have no idea what's going on there, but I assume there must have something similar to that. I imagine. But if you're in New York City, anywhere in New York City, you have community boards, and most community boards have committees that are similar to the Small Business Committee. They may be named slightly different things. Who is here? Who's either doing business or a resident here on the Upper East Side? It's okay if that's nobody. One.
Well, when you say doing business in general? Or?
Doing business in general.
Yeah.
Doing business. Doing business. That's what everybody's doing business on the Upper East Side. Great. Okay, so I had some Upper East Side specific things, and I'll be able to do those. It's been fun being on the Small Business Committee. It's been both fun and it's been a bit of a challenge in a particular way. It is difficult to get business folks involved with the very local levels of government. That's very understandable, right? A lot of the meetings are during the day when people are working. Sometimes they're at very inconvenient times. The sort of times that a lot of government meetings always avoid, like Friday nights and Thursday nights and weekends, tend to be the times that business owners are actually free, and so it's very frustrating. And it's also not so obvious exactly how local government can really help very much. And this is a problem that's been particularly significant on the Upper East Side because we have a major business problem, which is the Second Avenue subway, which is going to be totally fantastic, and it's going to be great for business, and I'm sure when it is finished, which I hear will be as early as 2030 or perhaps 2040, it will be a wonderful. When's it a Mad Men episode?
It's not that far away, is it?
No, it's supposedly like next year or something.
2015 or 16? 16, I think.
That's what
the.
There was this Mad Men episode, of course Mad Men set in the 1960s, and somebody says, you should really buy property here, buy an apartment here, because this is like 62 that it's set, because although it's a little out of the way now, but when the Second Avenue subway is finished in the next year or two, it'll really, the prices are there.
I have a client that owns a bar, like 85th between 1st and 2nd, you can wait.
Until it's finished, right?
Yeah,
and there's a reason, right? I think bars are actually maybe one of the most difficult situations that we've had, and this is because even if you think, as I think is very reasonable, that it's going to be absolutely great for business when it's built, it's no doubt that it's not good for your business on Second Avenue right now, particularly if you're a walk-in business. If you own a bar and there's a giant construction project right in front of you and it's very loud, and there's a lot of loud noises, and nobody wants to walk near you, then it's very, very hard to do business. And as we know, very few businesses keep 13 or 14 years of operating capital just lying around in case the government decides to build, project, no worries, the savings account has 14 years of expenses all stored up, nothing to worry about at all. And so this has been a real challenge, and we tried to help. And so there's two things I want to say about that, because I think some of what we've learned on the Upper East Side over the last few years trying to tackle this issue is generally applicable. So let's see. First of all, the city has some really great agencies, and some of these agencies are explicitly tasked with helping small businesses, or really business owners of any kind. First and foremost of these is Small Business Services, which is part of the mayoral administration. This is literally a branch of the local government whose explicit and sole function is to help you with whatever your problem is. So if you call them and you have any problem at all, if it's a business problem, sort of, my supplier is charging me too much money, I probably can't really help you with that one. But any sort of government problem, anything from it's incredibly frustrating, the power keeps going out, and what are we supposed to do about this as the only provider? To, there's serious noise problems, there's illegal parking, which is making it very difficult to work here. Anything all the way up to actual serious regulatory problems, tax filings, anything like that. They are tasked to help you, and it's very nice because the rules changed on this recently a little bit, and now they actually can't stop helping you until you say that they're done helping you. So until you tell them over the phone or in writing, oh, thank you, you solved my problem, they have to keep trying. So if they keep asking, does that solve your problem? That's why, because until you say yes, they're bound to just keep calling you back each day. Is this helping now? That sounds really annoying. That was an objection raised in the city council, but hey, it means that they will actually pay attention, and that's great. So it's small business services. If you want to learn more about that, tomorrow night there's an interview airing on MNN, which is the Manhattan Neighborhood Network, where I'm with the Assistant Commissioner of Small Business Services, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 people in the room. So if all of us watch that at MNN tomorrow night at 9:30 p.m., there'll be 12 total viewers, which
It's a lot.
is a lot. Of course, including my mom, who will, absolutely, not only views every clip, but has comments on everyone, and it's really great. But it is on, and Kelvin Collins, who's the assistant commissioner there, will be there to talk about that. They're open.
What channel would they?
Yes, MNN is. I can get that for you. Somebody sent me the list of channels it is.
Okay, no problem.
Is it-
It's only in New York though, right?
It's also online. So if you send an email to me and you're like, hey,
No, I think we should be able to figure that out.
The funny thing is I was trying to have a watch party for it, which you can imagine how fun that was. So I invited a bunch of the sort of Second Avenue Business Alliance people to a watch party. We were going to do it, and I called the bar, the Penrose, which I've worked with before. I was like, hey, can we set up a watch party? They're like, sure, what are you watching? And I said, MNN. And they said, we don't have that channel. I said, yes, you do, actually. And then I gave them the channel number, and they said, I don't think we've ever... No one has ever requested this. We've had people...
Is it a cable network?
It is. It's a cable network, but it's on all
So it's
the...
Manhattan News Network is what it is?
Manhattan Neighborhood Network.
Manhattan, cool.
And we got Kelvin Collins on, and it's a fun program, and it was very fun to record. It was done all in one take, so there's time to say, excuse me, and cut. That was just me talking. It turned out not to work that well, but it was good. So there's a lot of information on that, so that's good. Small Business Services is very good for that.
Yeah, it's MNN.org.
MNN.org, it's right there. Very good. Another place that's very good, actually, is whoever your localist official is, which kind of varies depending on where you are. In some places, that's your assembly member. In some places, that's your city council member. It is usually your city council member. Generally speaking, a lot of people are like, I have a problem with parking. I'm going to call my congressperson, which is great. Except your congressperson really doesn't really deal with that. And by the time they get through to the parking situations next year, it's not because you're a member of Congress. It's just because that's not their primary thing. So what we generally say to do is to call your city council member, for whom this is right up there. Sometimes there's actually legislation that can actually help, and that's the case on Second Avenue. And so in Second Avenue, there's a particular piece of legislation, a tax abatement, which gives a rent refund for people for whom this has made very difficult for them to do business, which seems very, very sensible to me. And one of the serious problems we've had in passing that is that we sort of hold a hearing for it. Yes?
Please, repeat that.
It gives a tax
That's good for
abatement.
you.
So, great. So,
Good for you.
let's see. Sir, what is your name?
Jay.
Jay.
Smith.
Jay Smith. Okay, Jay, you own a building, and I own a bar on 82nd and 2nd, and my rent is $10,000 a month. It's a big bar, and it's 82nd and 2nd, it's not 2 p.m. And I come to you and I say, I know we got a 4-year lease, but unfortunately, with the reduction in foot traffic, we're not going to be able to stay open much longer, so I'm really sorry, we're going to have to move out. And you're like, oh, that's terrible, and under normal circumstances, it'd be sort of sad, but a new tenant would come along. But actually, the entire block is vacant because there's a gigantic construction project. So instead of saying, well, we'll see you later, Jay, you very kindly tell me, well, look, what if I made the rent $8,000 a month instead of 10?
Right.
Could you stay in business then? Maybe just for a year.
Give some relief.
That's right. And I say, oh, that would be wonderful. Thank you so much. And so we agree. under this legislation, you would get $24,000 off of your commercial property taxes, off your property taxes of any kind. And that's a below the line deduction. It can't lower your tax burden below zero, unfortunately, but it would lower it. And this actually could be very significant. And the interesting thing is, when this was proposed in 2007, it actually cost the state money. Now with the vacancy rates where they are, it doesn't cost the state money. It's sort of counterintuitive, but because people are actually able to pay their property tax, it actually does not wind up costing the state money.
Does it work just for commercial tenants or residential tenants also?
The legislation was originally designed simply for commercial tenants. We have talked about expanding it for residential tenants. But one of the problems that we've had is, you sort of try to give an impetus to this and talk to an elected official, and you say, I've talked to all of these business owners for whom this would be really great, but if you hold a meeting, it's very, very hard to get people to come, and so, sort of whatever. So that's all by means of saying you should always come to your local meetings and get super involved with your local community boards and join your committees because it'll help you pass legislation. Incidentally, it is actually also, generally speaking, we found a pretty good way of meeting folks in business. Generally speaking, if you're willing to go to a committee meeting for your community board on a weeknight for like an hour and a half, the other people who are going to be there and willing to listen to some boring Joe like me spiel about some random stuff are going to be pretty committed to business and to that community, which means that they're pretty good contacts to have. They've often been there for a long time, and they're generally pretty bad, but they're generally business people too, so it's good to meet them. So you get 3 benefits there. So the networking benefit, which is cool. You have the possibility of passing positive legislation, which happens from time to time. I hear occasionally it's happened in the legislature, once or twice. It's rare, but it does happen from time to time. And you learn about the right person to reach out to. Particularly if you have a particular problem, the guest who's speaking there, for example, that might be the commissioner of small businesses, it might be someone for the borough president, it might be such and such. They might not be speaking about your particular problem, but if you come up and ask them afterwards and said, hey, you didn't really touch on this, but I'm having real trouble applying for a city contract. I really don't understand this process. They will often be able to help. And by the way, if you don't understand that process, don't worry, neither does anyone else. So, all right. So nothing.
No.
So,
It was nice not to be alone.
Let's see. So that's mostly what we do, and we do different hearings and all sorts. So you're always welcome to come. Everyone is always welcome to come. Like I said, there are 11 people here, so there'll be 13 total. If you come, my mom will fly in from California. We actually do tend to get some relatively big crowds, and I guess that's mostly what I'll spiel about. And if anyone has any particular questions about what we do or about interacting with community boards or neighborhood groups, I will do my best to answer. Although again, Westchester and New Jersey, I'm just going to tell you to move to the city. So that's
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm in commercial real estate. Do you ever have people come to you and ask you to recommend somebody like me?
Absolutely. Yeah, happens all the time. And there's a reason for that, I think. Community board members generally have been around in the community, at least for a little while, very active. I don't own a small business. I'm running the small business committee. So that tends to suggest to people who are coming to the committee, hey, this person must be really interested in small businesses here, and they probably know people, particularly they know some people who have not yet demonstrated that they are very bad, which is very helpful, and so they actually happens all the time, and I'm happy to recommend people.